Hi, I hope that as you're watching this, you're feeling a sense of peace within. I am deciding to carry out this reading at a time during a moment of spiritual work and what feels to be general integration for the collective, where we're being tested so that we can finalize certain loops that we want to close specifically regarding things that would often make us feel shameful, guilty, powerless, like a victim. Many layers to this, so just because we're finalizing a level now doesn't mean that we're not going to keep going. That may be a channel message for you personally, in that you may be dealing with learning how to deal with the frequency of shame. Sorry, my battery. Sorry about that. Should have made sure that was dealt with before going on live. Anyway, dealing with the frequency of shame. The readings that I do and the channelings and the place in which I go to find my answers are very mostly subconscious, so that you'd have to, whatever I say, please consider looking at the overall patterns of your life. I believe that there are patterns everywhere for all of us to observe. They're just made particular to each person to be able to recognize. So please be aware that any ideas that I mention are mentioned for the intention of recognizing or acknowledging the root of whatever pattern may be playing out in your life. So when I mention the frequency of shame and guilt, it may be triggered through things like work situation, relationships, friendships, whichever. Again, consider during this time your Chiron placement. If you're into astrology, look at your Chiron, and I suggest you look at it. What's up, baby?
I don't want you to.
Let me finish then. Let me finish recording. Look at your Chiron placement across, honestly, as many astrological systems as you can, because I believe each one feeds into you as a person. So wound work, dealing with and uncovering wounds so that we can feel more free. And as I came onto this live, I have been integrating that sense of freedom that grants a release from the feelings of victimhood, shame, all to arrive to the truth that you can't fuck up. There's no mistake that you can make. It is essentially, like, on God's level, it's literally impossible because it's all part of your process. So, big theme in learning that as well, that there is a process to things, especially to something as great and as magnificent as your life. So I hope that in this moment you are connected with the truth of that. Let's see what the cards have to say. Interesting. So you got the Eight of Cups as the first card that fell out, and it fell out in a way that I've never received a card like that, where it fell out propped up against my hand and facing, so it was upright like this. If I let it drop, it would fall out in reverse. Before continuing on, I'd like to explore the reverse meaning of that card. You have the Page of Rods at the bottom of the deck as well. Oh, interesting. And the Moon and the Nine of Rods. The Moon is pretty interesting because we are a day away. I'm recording this on the 4th of November. We are the 4th of November, 2025. We're a day away from a full supermoon. And I've been receiving the moon sporadically in my readings for the past week. Excuse me. And with the general scorpionic vibe in the air, it is very much giving that, oh, okay, and then you have the wheel beneath the Nine of Rods. It's giving that a lot of things are going to be revealed. A lot of things that were kept in the shadows are going to be revealed, which is the obvious interpretation for a full moon, close to a full moon. But it's something, I'm feeling into something, as I'd mentioned before, on a subconscious level, subconscious behaviors and patterns. If you are somebody who wasn't previously aware of that within yourself and others, please look into being aware of that and paying very close attention to how people project onto you and how those projections signal something about yourself. Before moving on, I would like to get back to this. So to begin, the card upright, moving from material stability and certainty to a less definite but more spiritual future, a new situation that promises deeper involvement but could also include real risk. Okay, that's interesting, and to me, ties in very closely with you having received Nine of Rods at the bottom of the deck. A new situation that promises deeper involvement but could also include real risk. I'll tap into that energy. Withdraw from a current situation due to a compelling inner message. A compelling inner message. Pay attention to the way that you think and the thoughts that come up at all times, but more specifically in times when you feel emotionally charged, whether overcome with a sense of loss, maybe a sense of loss, yearning, but not in the romantic sense, in the will things ever get better? Will I ever get what I deserve? Will my dreams ever come true? Stuff like that. If you're somebody who tends to be victim to those kind of frequencies, pay attention to the loop of that, the words you use, how you feel about yourself, especially in your low moments. Pay attention to the words you use about yourself. That's coming out ahead of me. The Eight of Cups in reverse speaks of an ingrained dissatisfaction with your life, but reluctance to do anything positive to change it. Turning to retail therapy or mind-altering substances for consolation instead of looking at the real issues. Okay, so it feels like this is a shadow work reading. And yeah, wound work is shadow work. Chiron is, yeah. Okay. So, try to be aware of every moment in which you feel dangerously vulnerable. There may be feelings of that come up, but feelings of disempowerment, but for the lesson, not for they will come up as a way of learning how to control your will. Yeah, you're doing a lot of, right, and death. I was going to say you're doing a lot of death rebirth, and then I saw the death card. Yeah, this is, okay, this is a deeply spiritual time. In a way that may be something that you're not used to welcoming in your life. You're not used to following or leading a path that is so spiritual to the point where you decide, you make major decisions based on your intuition. It may be that you are going to need to learn almost in acceleration, urgently, but in a quick way. And it accelerates it in a way as if the universe is trying to directly communicate to you to say, it's time to, there's a lesson I'm bringing to you. It's time to figure it out now, It'll be obvious. You'll be able to see yourself, the communication from your universe of you are doing work. I've sent you a task, You will be sent a task from the universe, a spiritual, energetic one that possibly has to do with your most vulnerable sensations regarding victimhood, shame, guilt. Something about that within you is going to be uncovered. Like, as an example, you may find yourself projecting in a relationship towards someone. Or, I mean, okay, this is a really light one. You're out in public and you see someone and you just don't like them. There's something about their vibe that pisses you off. Upon further inspection, though, you realize, and this has actually happened to me before, but many years ago, before I'd actually started doing this work, this inner work. Let me make it personal. I would go out way before I had begun the journey of trying to accept and feel good about myself. I would go out and see people who were feeling good about themselves. They would mostly be very loud and eccentric and very extrovert. My thing with Leos, if you've been around with me long enough, you know I used to hate Leos. And it was because of this, because of the sense that, because of some subconscious lack of self-love I had for myself. So when I saw people behaving like they loved themselves, it put me off. That kind of thing, you know? That kind of thing is about to be dealt with this week. So beware of your own self projecting. Normally I'd be like, beware of people projecting onto you. No, beware of your own self projecting onto other people. Self-sabotage. I'm also going through dealing with the way that I attach with people right now, the way that I attach with relationships, and doing it in a confident way that doesn't leave me needing to constantly fix myself to be ready to lose them, you know, that kind of thing. I'm also getting into the sense of a sense of an alleviation from depression. So if you have been going through a depressive season, you can expect an uplifting point of relief for you sometime soon after watching this. However, I feel like I need to emphasize that whatever acts need to be done in order to alleviate you is highly likely going to come from you. As this card mentioned, regarding the need to take control of your own frequency. This card also speaks of being freed from a collective consciousness. And I'm receiving with these cards all together that the collective consciousness you're breaking free from, or possibly like a societal or familial behavioral pattern, is that of victimhood, shame, but it all linking to a sense of sadness and like a despondency. Like maybe you've been moving a bit like over cautiously in the world through everything you do. Maybe you haven't been having any fun because of how fearful you are of either experiencing too much joy or doing too much, spending too much money, and then something like that, something holding on. I'm getting the feeling of holding on, and how you've been holding on for a very long time. You need to let go. This holding on has kept you in a very dark place. I'm not sure holding on to what. Maybe a past. Something in the past. It feels deeply spiritual, which is, in my understanding, very emotional. So it feels more like a past trauma, something from childhood, poor attachment to a care figure, a caregiver that you're healing from, childhood wounds. But it's also giving something teenagey. Maybe something happened in your teenagehood that affected you more than you thought it did, and it might come up to heal. Something about secrets, and something about the root of you as a person not being comfortable with sharing secrets, trusting others with your secrets, with your vulnerable parts. Something about that needs healing and is going to be healed, but has to be healed in your own act of trusting the universe, trusting this wheel that you're a part of, trusting the spin of this wheel, surrendering to that in some way, in some shape or form. Possibly also surrendering to your own inner darkness and to your propensity to like not to assume the worst of people. This was a very rich spread. I didn't expect to pull from underneath the deck. I'm glad I did, as it's a beautiful story here that's unfolding. I'm almost done, baby. I think we're gonna have to close off very, very soon. Something about this. My son has felt it's been a very, because of the energetic tenseness, and more particularly of the upcoming full moon. It's been affecting, I think, his sense of like closeness and intimacy. He's been clingier, and I've been feeling very drawn in a very new way in all of our journey together to respond to that. And something in that has been very healing. I'm trying to make the link in this moment, as I do feel that there is, that it's important that I brought that up. Be open to being vulnerable. I feel like I may be reading for this. You may be somebody who really values power. You really value the power of will and choice. And I think what you're about to understand and uncover shortly after watching this is how much of your will you have been giving away in your fear of being vulnerable. Being guarded and defensive isn't as or having a high wall up. It's not the power move that you think. I may be reading for a Scorpio, 8th house, Aquarius, Capricorn, Virgo. Somebody who generally enjoys the sensation of being in control. Not that you're a control freak, you just like being in control. I think it's been part of being in control, staying in control in as many ways as possible. It's been part of your maturing, your journey of maturation. It's been part of your maturing journey. And it may be possible that this new phase of your life, or part of your maturing recently, has been in humbling yourself to how much isn't actually in your control and how much you have to release to God. How much is in your control, how much isn't. These two cards showing up in this reading is also pretty interesting, considering, let me finish, considering the contrast of these messages, how one implies you being in control using your own will, and the other implies divine surrender, and how you are not in control. But both speak of a divine connection, a route to source, which you clearly have, and which through all that will be uncovered will be coming from. Like I said, it feels like shortly after watching this, you will receive a direct universal instruction of some kind. So pay attention to the patterns, synchronicities, be open to receive as many symbols and whatever as possible. If you don't have any symbol agreement with your universe, try making one up now, where you tell yourself that every time you are, I've done a thing where anytime I'm in misalignment, the universe should show me a red truck. And if I'm in alignment and all is well and everything, I see a yellow truck. Needless to say, I see yellow trucks more often than I see red ones. And I often see red ones when I'm going through this, the wheel in reverse, where it's as if I'm pushing actively against my story. I'm feeling resistant. I'm feeling, stubborn, closed off, etc., etc. So do something like that so that the universe can communicate more to you and you can open yourself up more to receiving messages. This is a very message communicatey time. No matter how far or close you are from a moon cycle, whenever it is that you're reading this, as it is, my readings are timeless, please pay attention to that, to either the new moon or full moon that just passed, or the new moon or full moon that is ahead. Something about that is very important. Yeah. Venture into being sober. I didn't want to mention this because I'm a big advocate for doing what you got to do, but something about these cards together is giving that if you try to escape through, if you experience any vulnerable feelings of defensiveness or whatever, and you try to escape through drugs or some shit, it's not going to turn out you're not going to get the escape that you think you're going to get if you use substances for escapism. Be aware of that. Pay attention to that as well. That may be something that comes up where you'll notice that you're probably so into the substance, drinking, smoking, whatever, because there's something subconscious that you're trying to uncover. I remember someone mentioning, I don't know where I got this from, but it's been a common rhetoric, and I'm sure you know it too, but just for the sake of reminding us all that when it is that you crave a smoke, what you're actually craving is a deep breath. So something along those lines. Maybe if you find yourself craving a drink, what you're actually craving is a sense of freedom, i.e. possibly a sense of connection to your inner self, right? Or a hug. When you're craving to spend money, what you're actually craving is what? The sense of adrenaline, of getting a new thing, Everything is going according to plan. The planets, the stars, the whole universe is involved in what is coming. When in doubt, surrender. And keep doing the work. Keep doing the work. Yeah. Okay, that's all for your reading today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that it was helpful and uplifting in some way. Please be aware that I am going through a period of time in my work where I am feeling extremely open to give free readings. So should you be catching this in this moment, please, firstly, thank you always. And please feel free to DM me and we can take it from there. Again, please guard your spirit, stay prayed up. These are really crazy times. November 2025, insane times. Yeah. Everything helps. Every bit of anything helps. It all helps. So never lose sight of that or lose hope of the fact that the work that you're doing is actually making a difference. Your presence, your breath, every breath you take is making a difference. And thank you. Always, always. And I'll see you in the next reading.